All right, we are live. Now, this is going to be a little bit different from what my typical stream is. Usually I'm playing games, but also usually I don't have a voice like this. So I figured, why not take advantage of this voice and read one of my favorite short stories, which is The Cask of Amontillado. This short story is a very famous one by Edgar Allan Poe. Maybe not his most famous. Probably there's a few that are maybe a bit more famous than this. Probably Fall of the House of Usher. Maybe made more popular by that TV series. But this one I really do enjoy. It's got an interesting sense of horror to it, and I really enjoy it. So please, though, forgive me as I read it. My pronunciation of certain things might not be spot on. My voice acting is not necessarily going to be the greatest, but I ask that those of you who enjoy Edgar Allan Poe and his works would maybe just enjoy it for the pure sake of liking it, of liking Edgar Allan Poe. Maybe I won't do it right, but we'll try. Huh? Marcus, glad that you're here. Long-time fan, first-time listener to the radio station. Welcome to the radio station. As you can tell, my voice is in premium radio shape. But yeah, I can't keep this up much longer without it dying. But yes, hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed, maybe subscribe. Maybe after this is done, subscribe. I know you've already subscribed, Marcus, so it's all good. But without further ado, The Cask of Amontillado. The 1,000 injuries of Fortunato I had borne as best I could. But when he ventured upon insult, I vowed revenge. You, who so well know the nature of my soul, will not suppose, however, that I gave utterance to a threat. At length, I would be avenged. This was a point definitively settled. But the very definitiveness with which it was resolved precluded the idea of risk. I must not only punish, but punish with impunity. A wrong is unredressed when retribution overtakes its redresser. It is equally unredressed when the avenger fails to make himself felt as such to him who has done the wrong. It must be understood that neither by word nor deed had I given Fortunato cause to doubt my goodwill. I continued, as was my wont, to smile in his face, and he did not perceive that my smile now was at the thought of his immolation. He had a weak point, this Fortunato, although in other regards he was a man to be respected, and even feared. He prided himself on his connoisseurship in wine. Few Italians have the true virtuoso spirit. For the most part, their enthusiasm is adopted to suit the time and opportunity to practice imposture upon the British and Austrian millionaires. In painting and gemmery, Fortunato, like his countrymen, was a quack. But in the matter of old wines, he was sincere. In this respect, I did not differ from him materially. I was skillful in the Italian vintages myself, and bought largely whenever I could. It was about dusk one evening during the supreme madness of the carnival season that I encountered my friend. He accosted me with excessive warmth, for he had been drinking much. The man wore motley. He had on a tight-fitting party-striped dress, and his head was surmounted by the conical cap and bells. I was so pleased to see him that I thought I should never have done wringing his hand. I said to him, "My dear Fortunato, you are luckily met. How remarkably well you are looking today. But I have received a pipe of what passes for Amontillado, and I have my doubts. How? Said he. Amontillado? A pipe? Impossible. And in the middle of the carnival? I have my doubts, I replied, and I was silly enough to pay the full Amontillado price without consulting you in the matter. You are not to be found, and I was fearful of losing a bargain. Amontillado? I have my doubts. Amontillado! And I must satisfy them. Amontillado! As you are engaged, I am on my way to Lucchesi. If anyone has a critical turn, it is he. He will tell me. Lucchesi cannot tell Amontillado from sherry. And yet some fools have it that his taste is a match for your own. Come, let us go. Whither? To your vaults. My friend, no, I will not impose upon your good nature. I perceive you have an engagement. Lucchesi, I have no engagement. Come. My friend, no. It is not the engagement, but the severe cold with which I perceive you are afflicted. The vaults are insufferably damp. They are encrusted with nitre. Let us go. Nevertheless, the cold is merely nothing. Amontillado! You have been imposed upon, and as for Lucchesi, ye cannot distinguish sherry from Amontillado. Thus speaking, Fortunato possessed himself on my arm. Putting on a mask of black silk, and drawing a rouquelière close about my person, I suffered him to hurry me to my palazzo. There were no attendants at home. They had absconded to make merry in honor of the time. I had told them that I should not return until the morning, and had given them explicit orders not to stir from the house. These orders were sufficient, I well knew, to ensure their immediate disappearance, one and all, as soon as my back was turned. I took from their sconces 2 flambeaux, and giving one to Fortunato, bowed him through several suites of rooms to the archway that led into the vaults. I passed down a long and winding staircase, requesting him to be cautious as he followed. We came at length to the foot of the descent, and stood together on the damp ground of the catacombs of the Montresors. The gait of my friend was unsteady, and the bells upon his cap jingled as he strode. The pipe, he said. It is farther on, said I. But observe the white webwork which gleams from these cavern walls. He turned towards me and looked into my eyes, with 2 filmy orbs that distilled the rheum of intoxication. Nitre, he asked at length. Nitre, I replied. How long have you had that cough? My poor friend found it impossible to reply for many minutes. It is nothing, he said at last. Come, I said with decision. We will go back. Your health is precious. You are rich, respected, admired, beloved. You are happy, as once I was. You are a man to be missed. For me it is no matter. We will go back. You will be ill, and I cannot be responsible. Besides, there is Lucchesi. Enough, he said. The cough is a mere nothing. It will not kill me. I shall not die of a cough. True, true, I replied, and indeed I had no intention of alarming you unnecessarily. But you should use all proper caution. A draught of this Medoc will defend us from the damps. Here, I knocked off the neck of a bottle which I drew from a long row of its fellows that lay upon the mould. Drink, I said, presenting him the wine. He raised it to his lips. With a leer, he paused and nodded to me familiarly, while his bells jingled. I drink, he said, to the buried that repose around us. And I, to your long life. He again took my arm, and we proceeded. These vaults, he said, are extensive. The Montresors, I replied, were a great and numerous family. I forget your arms. A human foot d'or in a field azure. The foot crushes a serpent, rampant, whose fangs are embedded in the heel. And the motto? Nemo me impune lecessit. Good, he said. The wine sparkled in his eyes, and the bells jingled. My own fancy grew warm with the Medoc. We had passed through the walls of piled bones, with casks and puncheons intermingling with the inmost recesses of the catacombs. I paused again, and this time I made bold to seize Fortunato by an arm above the elbow. "The nitre!" Excuse me. "The nitre," I said. "See, it increases. It hangs like moss upon the vaults. We are below the river's bed. The drops of moisture trickle along the bones. Come, we'll go back, ere it is too late. Your cough." "It is nothing," he said. "Let us go. But first, another draught of the Medoc." I broke and reached him a flaçon de Cave. He emptied it at a breath. His eyes flashed with a fierce light. He laughed, and threw the bottle upwards with a gesticulation I did not understand. I looked at him in surprise. He repeated the movement, a grotesque one. "You do not comprehend," he said. "Not I," I replied. "Then you are not of the Brotherhood." "How?" "You are not of the Masons." Yes, I said. Yes. "You? Impossible. A Mason?" "A Mason," I replied. "A sign," he said. "It is this," I answered, producing a trowel from beneath the folds of my roquelaire. "You jest," he exclaimed, recoiling a few paces. "But let us proceed to the Amontillado." "Be it so," I said, replacing the tool beneath the cloak and again offering him my arm. He leaned upon it heavy. We continued our route in search of the Amontillado. We passed through a range of low arches, descended, passed on, and descended again, arrived at a deep crypt in which the foulness of the air caused our flambeau rather to glow than flame. At the most remote end of the crypt there appeared another, less spacious. Its walls had been lined with human remains, piled to the vault overhead in the fashion of the great catacombs of Paris. 3 sides of this interior crypt were still ornamented in this manner. From the 4th, the bones had been thrown down and lay promiscuously upon the earth, forming at one point a mound of some size. Within the wall thus exposed by the displacing of the bones, we perceived a still interior recess, in depth about 4 feet, in width 3, in height 6 or 7. It seemed to have been constructed for no especial use within itself, but formed merely the interval between 2 of the colossal supports of the roof of the catacombs, and was backed by one of their circumscribing walls of solid granite. It was in vain that Fortunato uplifted his dull torch, endeavoring to pry into the depths of the recess. Its termination the feeble light did not enable us to see. "Proceed," I said. "Therein is the Amontillado. As for Lucchesi—" "He is an ignoramus," interrupted my friend, as he stepped unsteadily forward, while I followed immediately at his heels. In an instant he had reached the extremity of the niche, and finding his progress arrested by the rock, stood stupidly bewildered. A moment more, and I had fettered him to the granite. In its surface were 2 iron staples, distant from each other about 2 feet, horizontally. From one of these depended a short chain, from the other a padlock. Throwing the links about his waist, it was but the work of a few seconds to secure it. He was too much astounded to resist. Withdrawing the key, I stepped back from the recess. "Pass your hand over the wall," I said. "You cannot help feeling the nitre. Indeed, it is very damp. Once more, let me implore you to return." "No." "Then I will positively leave you. But I must first render you all the little attentions in my power." "The Amontillado!" ejaculated my friend, not yet recovered from his astonishment. "True," I replied, "the Amontillado." As I said these words, I busied myself among the pile of bones of which I have before spoken. Throwing them aside, I soon uncovered a quantity of building stone and mortar. With these materials and with the aid of my trowel, I began vigorously to wall up the entrance of the niche. I had scarcely laid the first tier of my masonry when I discovered that the intoxication of Fortunato had in great measure worn off. The earliest indication I had of this was a low moaning cry from the depths of the recess. It was not the cry of a drunken man. There was then a long and obstinate silence. I laid the second tier, and the third, and the fourth, and then I heard the furious vibrations of the chain. The noise lasted for several minutes, during which that I might hearken to it with the more satisfaction. I ceased my labors and sat down upon the bones when at last the clanking subsided. I resumed the trowel and finished without interruption the fifth, the sixth, and the seventh tier. The wall was now nearly level upon my breast. I again paused, and holding the flambeau over the masonwork, threw a few feeble rays upon the figure within. A succession of loud and shrill screams bursting suddenly from the throat of the chained form seemed to thrust me violently back. For a brief moment I hesitated. I trembled. Unsheathing my rapier, I began to grope with it about the recess, but the thought of an instant reassured me. I placed my hand upon the solid fabric of the catacombs and felt satisfied. I reapproached the wall. I replied to the yells of him who clamored. I re-echoed, I aided, I surpassed them in volume and in strength. I did this, and the clamor grew still. It was now midnight, and my task was drawing to a close. I had completed the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th tier. I finished a portion of the last and the 11th. There remained but a single stone to be fitted and plastered in. I struggled with its weight. I placed it partially in its destined position, but now there came out of the niche a low laugh that erected the hairs upon my head. It was succeeded by a sad voice, which I had difficulty in recognizing as that of the noble Fortunato. The voice said, "Ha, ha, ha, a very good joke indeed. An excellent jest. We'll have many a rich laugh about it at the palazzo. Over our wine." "The Amontillado," I said. "Yes, the Amontillado. But it is not getting late. Will they be waiting for us at the palazzo? The Lady Fortunato and the rest? Let us be gone." "Ah, yes, let us be gone. For the love of God, Montresor." "Yes," I said, "for the love of God." But to these words I hearkened in vain for a reply. I grew impatient. I called aloud, "Fortunato!" No answer. I called again, "Fortunato!" No answer still. I thrust a torch through the remaining aperture and let it fall within. There came forth in return only a jingling of the bells. My heart grew sick on account of the dampness of the catacombs. I hastened to make an end to my labor. I forced the last stone into its position. I plastered it up again. Against the new masonry, I erected the old rampart of bones. For the half a century, no mortal had disturbed them. Impasse requiescat. And that's the end. And yes, you did just step into 1930. Actually, not 1930. It's actually 1846 is when this was written. But yes. Hey, Andre. Hey, Keiko. That would be, yes, the end of the Cask of Amontillado. I gotta say, though, that was a lot of fun to read. I think I messed up on a few of the Latin, some of the Italian for sure. But yeah, there you go. That is my reading of the Cask of Amontillado. I don't know. There's something about that end part that just gets me. But yeah, that there is the Cask of Amontillado, written by Edgar Allan Poe, first published in 1846. There's a good reason why he's been lauded as possibly one of, if not the greatest horror writers ever. He had a very interesting way of writing things, like The Telltale Heart, Fall of the House of Usher. There's another famous one that he wrote. Oh, what is it called? Let me look this up. Edgar Allan Poe. What have you written? Actually, one of my favorites of him. Let me just see. I gotta check out his work so I don't mess up the actual like Allan Poe works. Let me see. Oh, he had some very famous poems as well. But yeah, his short stories, there was, I think it was it the Jitter? Not the Jitterbug. There was, what was it called? The Gold Bug. I like that one. That one's an interesting one. Because that one I think is like, it's like a... it's like a treasure hunt one. And I actually really enjoy that. Yeah, he does a lot of great stuff. Yeah, The Raven. That's the one I'm thinking of. The Raven. I'm pregnant after that? Yeah, you guys get to enjoy my radio voice. But yeah, the Raven is really good. It's very dark. But I gotta say though, the part that I love most about his stuff is just how he's like, oh, I'm glad it tingled parts of your brain, Marcus. I appreciate that. I tried to do it fairly well with the intonation. If I really wanted to do like a proper justifiable job of it, I probably should have like not done it live, but like read it probably like offline and recorded it and done a few different takes on different portions of it. But do not say Keiko. Oh. Do not say it, Keiko. Oh no. Don't you say it. Yeah. That's all though I'm gonna do tonight. It's not gonna be anything too wild or too crazy. It's gonna be just a very short stream tonight. Come on, Toshi. Toshi, come on. Come on, Toshi. Toshi, come on. That was one of Edgar Allan Poe's much lesser known works. Come on, Toshi. The Fall of the House of Toshi. But yeah, I don't know if you guys noticed, but actually there's a little bit of music going in the background. I hope the music like too loud or not loud, that loud? Perfect. It's the menu music from Resident Evil 7. I was like, you know what? What's good background music for this story? I was like, you know what? I'm gonna use the menu music from Resident Evil 7. Because Resident Evil 7, an overlying feature, not feature, but theme of it is actually mold and dampness, right? And the Cask of Amontillado, an overarching theme in it is the mold and the dampness. So I figured it would jive quite well. But yeah, I looked up some of these things. I was like, how do you say this? But I totally forgot it. I knew the French stuff. I knew Amontillado. But some of the Latin, I think I messed that up. But such is life, right? But yeah, I really should though rest my voice. Although it is so much fun talking with this voice, I'm not gonna lie. I wish I had this voice like all the time. Although I don't, because people would like look at me weird if I talk like this all the time. Yeah, honey tea does go a long way. I think I'm probably gonna have some honey right after this with some tea. Although I am drinking some mugicha right now, which I don't know, it's probably not that great for your it won't hurt, but it won't help either. Oh yeah, the spontaneous pregnancy would definitely bankrupt me, for sure. I can't afford that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Yeah, that too. This is the voice of virility. But yeah, no, honestly though, it was a blast though. I loved reading the Cask of Amontillado. It's always I don't know. I just like the progression of it. And I feel like the way that the guy sort of has to slowly sober up with it. This is what peak male performance sounds like. Yeah, with your energy drinks. Oh man. But yeah, honestly though, guys, thank you though for stopping by. I know it was a really short stream, but it was a really fun stream. And I hope that you guys have a good night. And I will see you all. Hopefully on Thursday next week, where I'll be streaming with Sabrina while she's working on some art. And then definitely then hopefully Friday next week as well. But yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful Friday night and a delightful weekend. I will see you all in the next one. Have a good night. Bye.